Thanks, Kristen, and hello, everyone. Welcome to the Paddle Sport Trade Coalition's informational webinar. This is the 8th PTC webinar this year. So for those of you who have joined us previously, welcome back. For those who are here for the first time, thanks for joining us. The previous webinars are all posted on the Paddle Sports Trade Coalition's website, so check them out. Today's webinar is presented by the PTC Colab Committee. We're excited to share updates today on PTC Colab, but we are very excited for our main event today, which is the Retailer Roundtable. This webinar is open to all interested parties. We're excited to have you here with us today, so thanks again for joining us. My name is Pamela Dillon. I serve as staff for the Paddle Sports Trade Coalition. I'm pleased to serve as your on-air host for today's webinar with assistance behind the scenes from Kristen Place, your associate representative to the PTC Board of Directors and head of outdoor for Delta Digital, which includes Rapid Media. Rapid Media is the media sponsor of the PTC. Before we get started, I wanted to go over a few housekeeping items. The webinar is being recorded and will be available via a link shared with all who have registered. And as I said, it will also be posted on the website. To safeguard against background noise, all participants will be muted for the duration of the webinar, but near the end of the webinar, we've included some time for a Q&A session. At that time, if you'd like to ask your question live, raise your hand and we will unmute you to ask your question. Those unmute features and hand raising features are at the bottom of your, should be at the bottom of your screen. So take a look for look at those. Also utilize the Q&A features. Some of these may be hidden, so find that Q&A feature icon on your Zoom link. Use that Q&A feature at any time throughout the presentation. Right now, we'd like to invite you to find the chat feature. Tell us who you are, the company organization you represent, and where you are located. We really encourage your engagement throughout the webinar. And we've scheduled up to 60 minutes to provide information and allow for your questions. I also want to encourage you to keep your phone handy as we have several QR codes to share throughout the presentation, and you'll want to have access to that important information. At this time, I'd like to introduce Stig Larson. Stig is our PTC chair of the board of directors. He's also the chair of the PTC Colab planning committee. So he's got lots of great content and information to share with you. So over to you, Stig.
Awesome. Thanks, Pam. Thanks, Pam and Kristen, and obviously thank everyone for joining us today. I know it's the busy time of year for a lot of people getting their bookings in and trade show travel. But I just want to, before I get started on today's webinar, which is really going to be focused around the Retailer Roundtable. It's an idea that kind of came up over the past couple webinars, versus us kind of telling you what's going on within the PTC. Let's bring some PTC members onto the webinar and start breaking down what they're seeing real world, real time. We can also hopefully learn from those and better our businesses. Before we get started, I just want to encourage you, of course, to become a member if you're not already. Details are on that QR code on the screen right now. Also, for those who are members, you should be receiving your membership renewals from our new ERP system, which will allow you to pay via a subscription model, which is something that we are asked to do. And hopefully it makes it easier for everybody to help support the PTC, an organization that's really developed solely for the betterment of all of our members to grow the industry and make it more sustainable. In the coming weeks, you'll be getting an email from the Paddle Sports Trade Coalition. Our board elections will be happening. There are about half the seats on the board are up for re-election. So I really encourage you to vote for the board, help guide the direction of the board. And if you're not interested in becoming involved as a board member, we're always looking for help on our committees. The committees are really the driving force of the board direction. Paddle Sports Trade Coalition 100% realize it's a volunteer organization, obviously, and we've got a lot of mandates that are pretty heavy lifts, and these committees are really what helps drive that. If you're interested to get involved, please email us at info@paddlesportstradecoalition.org. Pam or myself or any other fellow board members will get back to you right away on how we can best utilize your strengths. The membership committee has also been actively working on membership exclusive offers to help offset some of the rising costs of running a paddle sports business in North America. Some of those costs we'll be talking about later on in this webinar from the retailers. But some key ones right now are event insurance, demo day liability insurance, commercial vehicle insurance, and of course, general business insurance. We're obviously continuing to work on full container and full truckload and less than truckload shipping rates, discounts for members. That is definitely something that's still an issue, especially for the brands that sell larger items like boats, of course. We're also working on group discount rates with back-end software companies that support our daily business needs, payment processing, the peripheral vendors that allow us to streamline our business and ideally maximize the margins that retailers desperately need right now. You'll see those people coming to Paddle Sports Trade Coalition, the annual event, the Colab. They'll be there to speak directly with you. Speaking of the PTC Colab, it is our annual event. Next slide, Pam. It is our annual event. For those who've attended before, it is a gathering of the industry, the best of the industry. Allows us to demo product. It allows us to communicate face-to-face on the successes we're having, the things we're struggling with, things that we need to work on together as an industry. There's also been a lot of focus in the past couple of years of a PTC University. And with the help of industry professionals and the staff and team at Montgomery Whitewater Center, and now the local and state organizations, there's going to be a lot of courses offered both on and off the water to help you and your staff get the most up-to-date training and knowledge on all things paddle sports. These PTC University courses, it really is going to ensure that we keep the specialty and specialty retail. We know that's why we exist. We know that's our purpose here, to provide that specialty knowledge to the end consumer. And that's how we're going to win this ongoing battle with the larger store chains that don't necessarily have that same hands-on expertise. It is a bit early still because we have a lot of more brands are reaching out to book space, but I wanted to really give a shout out to the brands on the screen right now. These are the brands that are really making the PTC Colab possible. You'll see them at the Colab, demo their product, come and try what's new, some of the innovative new items they're coming out with that help get people engaged and get them on the water. So, a huge thank you to the brand you see on the screen. I hope at the next webinar that brand list will be double or triple of that. Our goal is certainly to make this a one-stop place to come and try and demo the best of what the industry has to offer. Next slide. For those who've missed a couple of the past webinars, this is the site layout for the PTC Colab. What's really unique this year is Montgomery Whitewater Center has given us exclusive use of the entire site. What that means is that, well, it means we have the entire site, to be honest with you, but allows us to be able to utilize both the channels, all their buildings, the raft barn for storing product, and be able to have specific demos that our industry really needs. One of those conversations that came up with the past collabs was being able to actually do in-water testing of life jackets and really see what fits right, what you like about a certain PFD, how to sell a PFD, and you'll be able to do that in the lower pond. We'll be able to turn the water on and off based on the agenda that we're going to provide them. There will be flat water ability. There'll be chance to demo kayak fishing boats, stand-up paddle boards, canoes, you name it. We'll have all that ability. We've also locked in the ability to have oar rigs there as well on both the competition and the outer channel. So really cool things that allow us to kind of amplify the event. Next slide. This is the building where the most of our in-class work will be. We're also, the agenda, as you'll see a bit later on, it's a pretty vast agenda this year. We wanted to make sure there was always something going on that would kind of suit your specific needs. If you weren't interested in a meeting on, payment processing, well, there's going to be a separate thing going on at the same time on, swiftwater rescue techniques. So that's the goal of the agenda, to really make it sure that there's always something going on for everybody. The next slide. And this is that lower pond area. And as you can see by the raft barn, there's two separate buildings. Next slide, Pam. I've circled them. This is where we're going to be having these super PKs we've been talking about. And this really allows brands who are showcasing to have a captive audience where you can go and talk specifically to a brand about anything they're actually demoing down there, a specific, how to outfit your fishing kayak, how to fit a PFD, what's new on the market in the terms of dryware or rafting. So that's kind of something new this year, to be able to actually sit in the shaded area and have a one-on-one conversation with the brand representatives. It's a very unique situation to do that. I think it's going to be a big value add for everyone who attends the Colab. The raft barn itself will be able to store all the equipment that we're going to be shipping there. If you're a brand that has a bulk equipment, you need to get that there prior to the event. Montgomery has allowed us to use the raft barn as almost as a shipping warehouse to receive goods via freight prior to the event. Lastly, the next slide, registration perks. I'll try to skip this quickly because really the fun part of this webinar is the retailer roundtable. These are the perks that are going on. You can see there that we're having the 30 complimentary slots available for these super PKs. You can register early, obviously. It's September 1st is the registration deadline. And then if you want to check out the agenda, it's on the next slide. We've got two different versions of the agenda. It's the same agenda. One is a very detailed schedule, so you can actually go and plan out how you want to, choose the different ongoing things what's best for you and your staff. And then one is just the long list agenda where there's lots of overlap on each time slot. So two ways to view it. The detailed schedule is certainly a little more user-friendly if you're looking at bringing multiple staff there to kind of divide and conquer of all the knowledge that we'll be providing. Attendee sign up. Obviously, attendees registration is free. It's always been free. It'll always continue to be free for as long as we can. With the support of the Montgomery Whitewater Center and Discover Montgomery, there is it's allowing us to be able to have this whole event for a pretty cost-effective manner. We have a retailer engagement fund. We have over 70 retailers right now who've been nominated for retailer engagement fund. For those of you unaware what that is each brand is able to nominate retailers they would like to see down there. And then based on our budget, we will be reaching out to those retailers on a first come, first serve basis and offsetting their hotel room nights. The goal here is to really make sure that this is an event that you cannot miss as a retailer, reducing that overhead cost for you to come and amplify your business. All right, I think that's the pitch for that's my PTC Colab pitch. It's coming up fast. For those of you on this call, and I see a few of them, you know what Strasbourg looks like. You know what an annual event looks like when everyone gets together and can celebrate the good of paddle sports. You know why these gatherings are so important, which I think is why I'm so passionate about the PTC Colab and making sure that this becomes our event in North America to bring all of us together. Okay, now on to the meat of the webinar. A few weeks ago, we sent out an online poll, and that poll really was to kind of gauge what kind of questions we wanted to ask our retail panel, which I'll introduce a bit later on. And the poll is 5 questions, and the results of this poll are obviously number 1 was, are you a member of the PTC? Well, 66% of you said yes, 16% said no, and then actually 16% said not sure. So I'm assuming that some of the staff who may or may not know if their organization is part of the PTC. Slide number 2. The question was, what best describes your organization? 50% was retailer, brick and mortar. 0% was online only. 16% was both online and in store. 0% was a brand or manufacturer. 33% was a representative or a sales representative, and 16% was an industry associate, media, nonprofit, etc. The next slide was what trends are you seeing in customer demand? Something I've heard quite a bit so far as well, the growing interest in the inflatable portable products. 40% said that they saw an increase in that. 40% saw a demand in higher end premium gear. 0% said there was a focus on sustainable or eco-friendly materials. 20% saw increased interest in fishing applications. 40% saw an increase in entry-level affordable gear was driving sales. And then other 40% said other. That really was, the other was engagement and retention of beginner paddlers accelerating their learning curve. And then the other results, the online poll, like what opportunities could you see for growth in the paddle sports industry over the next 3 to 5 years? This is an open-ended question. You could add whatever you wanted in there. And these were the top answers. Lightweight kayaks, lightweight canoes and kayaks, motorized fishing kayaks. It's all about how effectively we as an industry are able to connect with a broad swath of new and not yet committed paddlers to convert them to committed paddlers. And the last one was, I'm unsure industry-wise, but just decided to expand my lineup of PFDs. As you know, PFD market's changing, lots of deaths going on and people not using them. So I think that's also where that answer is coming from. Then the last question was, what questions should we ask, discuss with the PTC at the August 19th webinar? And these are the 5 key questions that came up. We'll run through those one at a time, but the next slide is introduction to our retail roundtable participants. Some of these members I'm sure you've heard of, maybe you haven't, but right now we have Jason Yarrington, a Trailhead Paddle Shack. I'll give a brief intro to each of them. I know all of them well. Jason's in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Runs one of the largest paddle sports specialty stores here in the country, cross between paddle sports as well as core outdoor activities. They'd see think Patagonia, think Canada Goose, like that type of garments as well. Simon Coward, 2 locations in Calgary and Edmonton, both in Alberta. Simon's also a fellow board member, been around a long time, very innovative in his online growth, and make sure he captures participants all across the country, as well as very active in getting new paddlers on board with his courses and his demo days. And we have Brad Sunjammers, another fellow board member. Brad's from Panama City Beach, Florida. Certainly a paddle sports mecca. Brad's certainly finding lots of change going on in his shop, for better and for worse. So lots of good insight on what he's seeing. And then we have John Kahn from Confluence Kayak, located in Denver, Colorado. John is certainly in an area of the world where water levels are key, and the season can certainly be incredible or not incredible based on how much snowpack or water there is. So the idea was to kind of really select 4 different retailers from different parts of the country in order to really get what they're coming from in terms of how they're seeing the industry, where they're seeing growth, where they're investing, where they're divesting, and how they can answer those questions accordingly. So without further ado, let's start with question number 1. So I'm going to open this up to all the retailers. We do have a bit of a time limit. I've been trying to blitz through the first part of this, but we have about 40 minutes to go through these 5 questions. So I will stop it if it becomes a bit broad reaching, but we'll try to keep very pointed answers. The goal here is to try to kind of parlay what you're seeing in your store, and then maybe offer some tidbits or some nuggets of information that could help people on the call. So question number 1, what are some of the outside the box ideas that have worked in retail? I think maybe John, should we start with you on that one first?
Yeah, sure. Stig, thanks for hosting this and inviting me to participate. For me, it's always about trying to generate foot traffic. When people visit my store, they have a chance to shop around and browse around and see stuff that they, didn't haven't seen before, some new products. And so we try to do events with clubs and that kind of thing to increase our foot traffic. One thing that's maybe a little outside the box that we are doing is selling personal electric vehicles like one wheels and a new product called the ski wheel or squeal from France. And we're doing demos on those products, and that brings a different type of customer into the shop as well. I think for urban area folks, these electric vehicles are worth looking at because you can run shuttles with them. You can, yeah, and they're just really fun to ride. Um, so that would be my comment.
Okay, thanks. John, Simon, how are you seeing some out of the box ideas? I worked in retail for your paddle sports store.
Yeah, I think to sort of maybe a different approach than John was talking about there, like the last we've worked on, I guess, staff training and education as much as we could over the last few years with more of I guess, a transient workforce we've seen in the last few years. So every year we do a retail product knowledge event where we bring in our key brands and we do a full day outside MEC, like our REI, I guess. Their staff join and some other local retailers, and we do a big on water and dry land product knowledge day. And it's something that the retail staff that have been around for a while really look forward to, and it's a good way to educate our staff who maybe aren't as experienced in paddle sports. We're getting more general outdoorsy kind of people working for us rather than just like pure frothing paddle sports enthusiasts. So that's something that's been a real positive for our staff. It allows our reps to kind of hit a bunch of key retailers all at once, and it helps educate and inform our staff and give them anecdotal conversation points, even if they're not super experts at it. So we've found that that's been a really valuable tool for us as an organization.
So really kind of like getting that education back to them and getting that specialty back in specialty retail, like making sure you are the source for that information. Okay, very good. Jason, how are you at Trailhead? How is that? What are some of the out of the box thinking that you're doing?
Well, after 25 years, I know nothing's coming out of the box right now, but I think I have to agree with Simon and John on some of those points there. Staff coming in, they are less just pure paddlers that we could find and more outdoorsy people. And like John said, adding different products to the store, and that's the big thing we've been taking a chance on, is adding different specialty products that can get boots on the floor. We really need to get more people into the store, whether you can try stuff on. And for us, a big part of, and it's outside of paddling, was bringing touring skis in quite a few years ago. And there's a lot of paddlers that are, that tour ski. And every time you can keep them coming back to the store and looking at what's on the wall, and we keep our paddle sports out year round, it doesn't change at all. It's a big part of keeping, the minds of all the paddlers or people that want a boat every time they come in our store for something else to think about us and not just go online or think about going elsewhere. It's just keeping the traffic count up is the biggest thing we need to do right now.
Yeah, interesting to say that. I think there's a lot of stuff I'm hearing is, every paddler has many brand adjacent sports that they also do. Try to figure out how to capture those in your market. And so you're not just having a paddler that comes in, obviously in Canada, it's cold here in the winter, that only comes in, half the time of the year. You're continuing to become the source for all of their adventure. And you train them into not just a paddler, but a skier and other things like that. Brad, that certainly lines up perfectly for you, because I know you've had quite a bit of change in your retail location over the past couple of years. This probably hits home most to you. How are you dealing with this?
Yeah, so foot traffic is key. So we're trying to do anything to get people to walk through the door, so they can try to see a kayak and paddle sports to spark that interest. There seems to be very little interest in our community for paddle sports anymore. So just getting them in the door. And one thing we've done is we're chasing the young demographic. Which is risky with trendy clothing, trendy name brands. They'll be here 18 months, 24 months, something like that. And then they're gone. So you got to be careful not to get caught with it. But it's bringing in that 17 to like 25-year-old that we've never seen in our paddle sports store before. And they're looking at kayak. They all think they're really cool. They're not buyers now, but we're trying to play that long game of getting the younger demographics through our store now with some high profit margin, fast turning items. So hopefully we can sell them, a paddle sports product down the road.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, makes total sense. I know one thing we talked about before we went live here was, endless aisle, opportunity for, able to sell a catalog, an entire catalog from a brand on your website with actually having to retain that inventory. Is that something that anyone here on the call is doing? I mean, I know Simon, I know that you do that, but is that something anyone else here is doing?
We are not stuff we've looked at, but it just for some reason hasn't risen to the top of the to-do list with the ever-growing list of fires that arise every day. That one doesn't seem to be burning hot enough just yet.
Right. Makes sense.
And I think drop ship is something we've looked at as well. And, of course, there's a lot of stuff you got to look at, we'd had some other conversations on, making sure your preseason buy is around what's going to be drop shipped or on this endless catalog. If there's different colors and or sizing that you have to make sure you have in a preseason. And it also goes to discounts too. I've looked at it hard and Stig, I've looked at this and it's making sure you have the right program, how much work you're going to put into it to put it all together. So you're not just downloading Excel files every day to drop into your program. And that can be very time consuming and take away a lot of margin. And keep inventory in Europe, here, the inventory is going to stay with the store rather than with the manufacturer. And we've got to sell our inventory out every single year and hopefully buy more the next year to get bigger discounts.
Right. Yeah, very, very valid. Okay, those are great answers. Thank you. Let's jump to question number 2. Question number 2 from the poll was, can manufacturers highlight and keep retailers with deep inventory in the public eye? Simon, do you want to jump first on that one?
Once I find the unmute button. Yeah, for sure. I think this is something that we've tried to work with our key partners on a bunch over the last, however many years. We create quite a lot of content. And so one of the things that we've always asked our key brand partners is to be really involved in sharing that content and making sure that it's front and center and it's getting out there. And I think we've been relatively successful with that. And that's in multiple ways, whether it's sharing our education videos or product reviews, or even we do a media event at the end of the year. So we bring our key partners together and we shoot a bunch of video and shoot a bunch of photos and they're available for everyone to use. And so I think with all of that aggregation of content, and for us, that's one of the things that we kind of base our marketing on is building good content and having it shared to as many eyeballs as possible. And I think for us that has worked really well in the past. It's maybe not traditional as far as like the locally or directing people to our website per se, but that has been really a real value add for us over the years.
Okay, thanks, Simon. John, what do you think about that? Is there anything that you can add to that?
I think that we do participate with a lot of manufacturers programs to their dealer locators, and locally is a program that sends buyers to local retailers or online retailers if you have it in stock. And it can be a challenge to keep your inventory updated depending on your platform with locally or with some of these platforms, but it's been worth it for us because we definitely have found people that have found us based on a dealer locator. Coming from way back when in the industry, I remember when I was just getting started and how it felt like it was the industry was weighted towards the largest retailers, and it was really hard to break in as a new store or a smaller operation. And I still kind of feel that the industry overall is healthier with more people on the bottom end of it. So small retailers, we don't want to give them the short end of the stick or just the crumbs, because it's really important to have, a river store in every community that has a river. And if, the manufacturers are only highlighting their biggest partners, it makes it tougher and tougher on the smaller shops that are really struggling to get by in some of the smaller communities. So, that would be my input on that question.
Thank you. Jason?
Yeah, the highlighting of deep inventory retailers, let's call it sometimes the bigger ones, is something they don't really do that well. They throw everybody together, and locally is a great way to do it. I think you got to be on locally. If the manufacturer's on locally, make sure you're set up with your system to be on locally. It does a really good job. It puts your name front and center. It tells you if you have inventory or not in that product, but it still puts your name there. Some POS programs will even let the customer buy rate. It directs your rate to your site and buy it. And I think that's super important. And if the manufacturer is giving us that, we've got to take advantage of that. It's really the best way to do it. Other than that, other than them focusing, a little bit more of their online content and their social media into, highlighting us a little bit more, without having us to put the money up like Simon does and does a lot of that work. It's going to be really hard for, I don't know how else they're going to do it other than just keeping more in touch with us, meaning small and big, because we're all just as important.
Yeah, so like a suggestion, like almost like retailers, having their events amplified by the brands, that are being showcased at these events.
Yeah, they got to highlight us. They got to highlight us way more on their own social media. Who's selling what are we specializing in? But they're really promoting themselves more than they're promoting their retailers all the time on their own social media.
Right. No, it makes a lot of sense. I think, you've been talking about a bit before about how we want to get away from, the retailers just being the place to go and try stuff on and then them ordering them online from somewhere else, the cheapest online retailer. We really have to try to get that connection made where the store, the brick and mortar store, and the knowledgeable staff that's actually showing and walking that customer through the product, that's where the transaction occurs.
Yeah, that manufacturer can tell consumers, don't just buy any boat, go to this local store and have a staff fit the boat and to your needs and to your size, your person.
Yeah.
What are you using it for? And people don't always think that the consumer that's buying a canoe or a kayak or a stand-up paddleboard isn't thinking about, how much they weigh, what size their feet, where are they paddling, how long are they paddling for? Those questions don't come up on any of the sites. We give those questions to the customer on the floor and ask them and put them in the right boat. And that's got to be highlighted more to the manufacturers to push to us to get customers on the floor and into boats on the floor or on the water in our demo days.
Right. That's great. Thank you. Brad, anything you want to add to that before we jump to question number 3?
Yeah, just real quick. They absolutely can, and it's through their socials and their marketing. Just highlighting their retailers as partners. Sometimes as retailers, we feel like the brand social media platform's our largest competitor. It's always driving everything to their retail website or the big guys with deep inventories like John alluded to. Ideally, I'd like to see their internal pay structure, like their bonuses for however they structure it is only directly related with how big they grow their specialty retail market, and they take their direct consumer business off of their pay structures. I know that's how some of these manufacturers are, their departments. They get paid on like what they're selling online, and if they could remove that matrix all the way around. In fact, the bigger that is a percentage of our sale, the smaller our percentage gets. So they have to highlight their specialty retail stores.
Great. Thank you. Sam, I see your hand up. Is there want to add to this before we get next question?
Yeah, I'm not a social media guy, but it just made me think. This conversation just made me think of something. A lot of the, and I know there's a bunch of brands on here. A lot of the brands do athlete Instagram takeovers for periods of time. Perhaps there's an idea there where you could somehow do retailer highlights as a alternative or to support that, or somehow those athletes are attached to a retailer or something along those lines. Could be a completely bonkers idea, but it just kind of came to mind, so I just thought I'd share it.
That's awesome. Thanks, Simon. I see Mark Deming has put something in the chat that's very interesting. We'll get to as well, but locally having a new feature that might help with this. We'll save that one until the last slide. We open question discussions. Question number 3. I've heard the whole spectrum this year on how people are doing. It certainly depends on a lot locally where your water levels are, the type of city you're in. Ottawa. Ottawa is we're a federal government town, it's a capital, so there's a set income that tends to always kind of roll in no matter what. So I think what Jason sees is probably different than somewhere what John sees, where it's highly dependent on water levels, and Colorado's in a drought right now. But the question is, how has your paddle sports department performed this year? Were there any surprises in terms of unexpected category growth or category decline? John, you want to start off on this one?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think for me, the low water has definitely affected what we're doing. We have seen good performance from pack rafts. That's been a category, a real highlight for us. And these lightweight, basically inflatable kayaks seem to be something that people are catching on to. It's obviously something that doesn't take a lot of storage and is easy to deal with. So that's been good. We're down overall in store, and it's tough. The drought here is both short term and long term. The river that runs in front of the shop, we haven't paddled it all year this year, not a single day for me, because it's been under 100 CFS basically the whole summer. So that is a real challenge, and I think the climate variability doesn't seem to be heading in the right direction. So we'll see how that shakes out. We are doing well with touring kayaks and flat water boats as well. So hanging in there, but challenging year.
Was there one category, John, that really was unexpected growth this year that you hadn't planned on?
I mean, I would say pack rafts have done better than expected, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Brad, how about you?
Yeah, we've had a extremely rough year with paddle sports. Panhandle of Florida, it's been very hot. Our town's in rapid growth, and there's just lots of people moving here, which is kind of making the cost of living extremely high. There's not a lot of disposable income. And while our overall economy is doing well, but it's definitely the haves and the have-nots that are starting to come because of our rapid growth. And we lost some of our major manufacturers that have had some manufacturing issues. Kayak fishing was king in the Southeast, and that's kind of going through I don't know what's going on with it. If I could figure that out, I'd have an answer for it. But we've not had any surprises other than how down it's been, and it's been a pretty dismal year for paddle sports for us.
That's unfortunate to hear. Was any category that was up?
No, we did not have
Okay.
a single paddle sports category that was up.
Okay, crazy. Well, thank you. Simon, how about you?
Yeah, I think we've had, I would say, like a flat year over last year. Like our business is primarily paddle sports. We do about 20% of our business is in roof racks, but everything else is paddle sports or education. Education's been pretty strong this year. We've seen good uptick on sort of longer format programming. So look, we're trying to transition away from 1 and 2 day programming into 5 to 7 days. And that's been successful so far. So that's been good. As far as like in-store product goes, I think there's been a pretty strong price resistance to whitewater kayaks. It's and a lot more offerings as well. There's a lot more European brands on offer that we don't sell, and so there's been some challenges there. So I'd say whitewater kayak sales are down. Dry suit sales are down considerably over the last year. They're the two, like whitewater kayaks and dry suits have been the culprit for most of our like declining departments. We've found that recreation has been steady / strong this year. There's been people willing to spend money on premium recreational boats like Pungos and Deltas and things like that. So that's been really good to see. On a super random side note, tarpons we haven't sold in years, and we can't keep them in stock, which is super strange. I don't know. It's one of those weird things. But I would reflect what John was saying is pack rafting for us has been a real has been huge. We've invested in it quite a lot. We've done a lot of content. We're running courses, we're running expeditions, and the whole lot. And we've seen, we lent into it last year and sold 30-40% more units than we anticipated, and then we sort of thought it would flatten out this year, but then we've more than doubled our pack raft sales over the last year. So pack rafting and IKs have been really good. So they've been the really strong ones. And industry orders, we've been chasing some industry orders, and we've done really well out of a couple of big industry orders with the city of Calgary and fire services and things like that. So that's been good at keeping things flat to slightly up on last year.
Great, thank you. And with all of the new courses and the elongated courses, have you found that the entry level market, like the new to paddling market, has grown for you?
I think we've always been pretty consistent with that, Stig. Like, we've always run education programs, and it's always been a big part of what we've done. And so I would say that it's pretty steady for sure. Like, I think that I could go into it for ages, but the social media boom has definitely kind of cut the club scene off at the knees a little bit. It's become less of a gathering and more of just, you don't have clubhouses anymore, and you're like, yeah, let's meet at the put in and that. So you don't necessarily have that sense of community as much, which we're trying to work on. But like, overall, I think the education feeds the beginner programming, the intermediate purchases, and does feed what club infrastructure is still kicking around.
Thank you. Jason, how about you?
I'm hoping we'll be level by the end of the year. We started off really, really slow, and we had a lot of rain here where we were, and it was cold all the way through May. So we had a real tough spring, but mid-June, the sun broke, and paddle sports seems to be doing well or back on track. It won't be up, I don't think, by the end of the year. Some of the things we're seeing are, fiberglass canoe sales are gone. High-end canoe sales are still going fine because I think that customer has the money anyways. So if they're going to spend $5,000 on a canoe, they're going to spend $5,000 on a canoe. Stand-up paddle boards are actually trending back up for us this year. They'd flopped, for the last couple of years, just gone to the wayside. Inflatables are doing well in the stand-up paddleboard market, and hardboards have come back. The only thing that hasn't come back is the race market. The SUP race market for us is still just dead. A lot of the race circuit around here is gone, which was a big part of our business for quite a few years. And kayaks, we're noticing that inflatable kayaks, which 5 years ago I don't even think I sold an inflatable kayak. They're taking a lot of the mid plastic boat sales away. That $1,000 to $2,000 boat sale is going away. We're selling way less Pungos because somebody doesn't want to put roof racks on their car. They're going to go buy 2 inflatable kayaks right now and throw them in the back of their little SUV or their car, or they've got glass roofs on their car and they don't want to put racks on them. So that market's where we think the change is happening, and we're making changes for that. The 10, 11 foot market under $1,000 is doing fine or doing as best as it can after COVID. And the high-end sea kayak or touring market, 14-foot boat plus market, lightweight, is also doing well. It's that middle market, but that middle market was such a big business for us that's what's kind of hurting us right now. And then dry suits have taken a beating, but every other part of accessories has actually done really well. Helmets, whitewater helmets are flying. Paddles, whitewater paddles, flatwater paddles. Seems like everybody's upgrading their gear, at least in Ottawa here. We're getting a lot of gear upgrades, which is happening right now. We're cold, so things like gloves and booties get changed every year. So that's, as long as people are paddling, we're going to sell lots of it, which is a good thing for us. But yeah, it's I think the person that has money is still spending the money, and I think the person that's mid income or lower income is watching what they're spending. And we're finding people putting a set of $2,000 roof racks on their car is hurting our mid kayak market sales. It's adding dollars to an already in Canada here, a pungo's $1,400 plus a $120, $130 paddle, a $140 life jacket. And then you add your roof racks to that. People buy two of them. We're at $10,000 with taxes for two recreational boats that people are going to paddle every second weekend for an hour or two. It seems crazy.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Jason. I know, speaking to other brands that manufacture inflatable supboards, there has certainly been a strong rebound this year. I would say that was a category growth that a lot of people didn't expect. That's across the board from that. I would say like mid to upper high end ISUPs are rebounding back. Thank you. Question number 4. There's another one we talked a bit about before the meeting started, but how do we keep costs down and retain margin? Now, the goal of this question is to figure out, obviously the cost. We overheard it from Brad. The cost of running a retail shop today versus what it was even 5 years ago is substantially more. Salaries are higher, property taxes are higher, just everything to do with the cost of doing business has gone up. And that margin has really stayed the same. In some cases it's gone up, some cases it's gone down, but even the cost of getting product to your door from the brand has gone up, with the shipping costs, the fuel surcharges. All of these things are kind of outside of the control of a lot of people, and ultimately the one that bears the brunt of it is the retailer. So this kind of question is like, how do we keep those costs down and retain margins? Brad, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it is trying to find out what partners that still have like free freight options and things like that. As you were saying, it used to be you order X amount of dollars and you got free freight. No problem. We just all ordered free freight. Well, then when free freight went away, a lot of products, I mean, just our cost have skyrocketed everywhere. And as you said, the margin stayed the same. So we've just started trying to do business with people that have manufacturers that have helped us maintain our margins, that have worked with us, that have been good partners. And even if it's not a good like financial or margin partner, like they're not competing with us routinely with an Amazon store, direct to consumer, sometimes just getting the sales is important as making a little bit extra margin. And we've quit doing special orders on a lot of things because the numbers just didn't work anymore. That may end up not being the right call, but we were getting way out of whack with wrong inventory, trying to keep everybody happy with absolutely, we'll get that for you. We'll get that for you. That all of our profit just went into trying to maintain product that we don't sell enough of to justify having.
Great. Thank you. John, how about you?
You're muted, John. John, you're muted.
Thank you, Pam. Sorry about that. Starting from the proposition that, our margins aren't high enough to start with. We're kind of in an industry that has traditionally been, the low price leader, or try to accommodate inexpensive products for people. And, the margins on boats, any other product selling for $2,000 would have a 50% margin to start out on. And when your largest category or your largest inventory investment, boats, is your worst performing category, it makes it hard to run a business based on that. Would love to see just higher retail prices and more margins out of the gate for retailers. For me this year, I had to make a decision to close the shop one day a week. We shut our shop down on Wednesdays. I'm here at my business today, which is closed. Wednesday is now my Sabbath day, but I'm still here. That cut my payroll cost by 1/7 basically, to shut it down that one day of the week, and it had to be Tuesday or Wednesday. We picked Wednesday as our slowest day, and we'll see how that shakes out. I expect we'll be back open when we get back into ski season 7 days a week. But for us, with this drought year and our rentals being down, it didn't make sense for us to be open 7 days a week. One thing I would say for manufacturers is there's too many color choices out there. Boats come in 3 or 4 colors, and it's just impossible for a retailer to stock that adequately. We kind of have a joke that the cut around here that the color of the the customer wants is going to be the one that we don't have. We might have 3 out of 4 colors, but invariably somebody walks in and says, "Hey, I want that, purple one or whatever," and that's the one we don't have. So fewer color choices on an annual basis, two colors max for boats, and fewer models would be really helpful. And then, we have really tried to not compete on price. Most of our customer communication doesn't emphasize price. Of course, we do sales and that kind of thing, but we're not hammering price year round. So that's my input.
Thanks, John. Jason.
Yeah, it's a tough question. Margin, the way we try to get margin is purchase from our suppliers is in the highest preseason category as possible. Bring truckloads in the fall and get the biggest discount for storing it for them. I think that's happening less now because they're not giving us as many discounts in the fall. Bring products in the fall. I think those discounts have got to go up. If I'm going to store your product for you, for 5 months of the year, then I want a bigger discount for that. So I think discounts are what we're trying to do to make more margin. On the other end, shipping is a problem. It's just really expensive to ship. I don't know the answer to that other than, trying to do more shipping with other stores so we can fill trucks together in season, out of season, doesn't matter. Just try to coordinate trucks and that can go to, 5 or 6 stores in our area. I'm happy to share loads with any other store. I think it's worthwhile for us to all make money. Yeah, keeping prices down. I think we have to keep the prices down. I don't know about putting MSRPs can't go up. I think it's also what's hurting the market is too high at prices, and it's hurting us, and it's probably hurting the manufacturer at the same time. You can go up 2 or 3% a year, but we've done a lot more than that in the last 5 or 6 years. We've gone up 20, 25, 30% or even more. And Simon's talked about whitewater. Whitewater's gone up a lot. And I remember each time, 25, 30 years ago, I remember when boats were under $1,000 in whitewater and they went over 1,000. We said, no one's buying a whitewater boat. And then they went to $1,500. No one's buying a whitewater boat. And then 2,000. Now we're at the same thing at $2,600, $2,700. I just think it takes a couple of years to settle into this, and then maybe they'll sell again. But I know this is a different one. Boats coming in from overseas is, at a lower cost, which is also crazy. I can ship a boat from China or from Europe for less than I can get it on a truck from the US into Canada. And I think that's absolutely crazy for a shipping cost. And it's why I'm looking outside of the markets of local markets, Canada, the US, to buy boats, because it's cheaper to stick them on a container and fill that container up and bring that boat in for $50 than it is to pay 100, 150 or more for a boat around North America. So something's off, and we got to kind of figure it out together with our suppliers.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, I know ever since the Paddle Sports Trade Coalition first started, it's been the #1 hot topic on how we can get those freight costs down for everybody. Thank you. It's certainly the easiest place for sure to save margin, freight companies. Simon, how about you?
Yeah, I just looked at the clock. We're running out of time, so I'll keep this brief. I think the big one for us is trying to what John alluded to is trying not to discount stuff. Ordering product that you can sell at full pop, and it's from partners that have good margins and reasonable shipping programs. I think the thing that we look at on a pretty granular basis every year is what is our ad spend as a percentage of our revenue, and what is our shipping, and what is our staffing as a percentage of our overall revenue. They're our real dictators of whether we're going to be profitable, break even, or not profitable. And the shipping over the last 10 years, I would have said that 10 years, 15 years ago, 2 to 3% of our overall revenue is probably a reasonable number, and now we're looking at it being somewhere between 5 and 8% of our overall revenue. So that when you look at that from a bottom line standpoint, you kind of cooked there. So I won't flog that horse too much more. ad percentage, we've been pretty aggressive over the years in that online advertising space with building content and all that kind of thing. But we've certainly noticed that space has become a lot more competitive, since COVID, I would say. And so having to be very aware of what we're spending and how we're deploying that budget has been important. Ours ballooned out to sort of 8.5%, 9% of our revenue for a couple of years, which is not sustainable for us. And now it's like if it's at 5%, we know that's what we want to be spending. And so we watch those numbers pretty granularly as a way to kind of protect the margin that we have above and beyond what everyone else was talking about.
Thanks, Simon.
Hey, Stig, I know we're out of time, but one thing that came as everybody was talking, every time we lose a little bit of margin or freight as a small retailer, it directly comes out of our paycheck. So that's why we're so passionate about it. It doesn't come out of an overall budget or get shifted to another category. It literally dictates what we can and can't do with our families.
Yes. Yeah, and what you can and cannot do to invest in growing the industry too, right? That's the key one too. I think it's all of us are on that call. Even as a brand listening to this, it's like, you said it multiple times already, but the retailers and outfitters and the clubs and school, like that is the front line. That is what's in getting new paddlers into the sport. And what can we do to make sure that that's a viable business model for people? 100% loud and clear. Last question, number 5, before we open up to like an open discussion. Question number 5 is, I'm looking just for one thing because we are getting tight on time. I want to make sure there's some room here in our time frame to get some people on the call to ask some questions. Is there an area of your business that you're going to be investing in significantly more than normal in the next 12 to 18 months? And some examples would be like demo days, some online platform changes, internal software, staff training, rental programs, etc. John, you want to jump in on this one?
Yeah, let me get unmuted there. I think for me, I am working on trying to automate some of my back office work, and really, I spend so much time in the office doing accounting and just bullshit that I'm trying to automate that, and so I'm personally investing in that and trying to streamline our systems, streamline our online presence, so that we're not just spending hours of every day doing that kind of thing. That's number 1 for me.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Jason, how about you? I know one of those, definitely, I put that in there because I knew that you had done a big one recently. So how about you?
Yeah, we just done a big online platform change, point of sale change, and even our full pay system. So we're fully with Shopify on board with all on Shop app, and it was something a long time coming. We've been online for a lot of years, but it just got us to the next level. It's just a lot easier to put product in. And we are finding people they're coming to the store, fitting the boat or looking at a boat once, and then just going home instead of going across the street for a coffee. They're buying it online after. So we needed to make sure, and they're buying it online and picking it up in store. We don't ship boats, but so that was a big part of what we were doing, is getting ourselves even more modern and easier for the consumer to purchase with us online. It's basically a one-click shop instead of going through 3 or 4 clicks to actually purchase. And we're putting more time back into demos, which we hadn't done for quite a few years after COVID and the last 2 years. And we're going to continue to ramp that up again to kind of be back like we were before COVID with events and demos.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. Simon, how about you?
Yeah, I think for us, the big thing, like continuing to invest in education and events. Some of the events kind of fell by the wayside, and it was quite blissful for a while, I must admit, after COVID. But understanding that that's such an important part of our business. So and youth education, like we're working. We've always worked pretty hard on the youth education thing, but we're trying to really expand that commitment and that. We're working with nonprofits to get grants and to get gear and to run programming all across Alberta in multiple disciplines and all that kind of thing. So I think that's a big long-term play. It's not really a short-term play, but a long-term play for paddle sports in Alberta.
So thanks, Simon. Brad, how about you?
2 things that we're working on is new marketing, how we communicate with people, and we're just coming off a political season here in Florida, so everybody's tired of getting text messages all of a sudden, and it's just trying to figure out what that next thing looks like on how to touch our customers frequently without annoying them, and then just reinvesting in clubs. We kind of built our business off paddling clubs, and they've all fell by the wayside, which I'm with Simon. Like it's labor intensive, and it's been kind of nice to go kayak and not with 50 people, but by yourself and enjoy it. But it's time to kind of get back to what we did 27 years ago to build our business, and basically just start over with that historical data of how we did it once and try to do it again.
Great. Thanks, Brad. That kind of wraps up our 5 questions. The last one, now we're going to kind of open forum. Is anyone on the call right now that has any questions for the retail panelists? Just type it in the chat and we can read them off.
There's one there, Stig, from Roland.
Okay, so I'd be curious to hear your perspective. What would you consider a realistic and reasonable margin on kayaks? You want to jump in on that one first?
I will. Kayaks are 25% of our business, and at a net, we lose about 5% on them after they're landed. So basically, a break even landed cost for us is we need it to be like at least 38% margin landed. So that's after shipping and all that good stuff, right? So I would say that realistically, we need the landed cost to be at 40% for our business to make it work. And then that would mean we'd be making 2% net on 25% of our business rather than losing 5% on 25% of our business and having to make that up in other things. So 40% landed is what I would be a pretty good standard for us.
Okay. On that note, would you rather have like 40% margin and free shipping to your door, or would you rather have a higher margin than you take care of the shipping?
I personally would. I'm not a gambling man, so I would prefer to have 40%. That's what you pay, rather than a higher margin and having to sort of like roll the dice with shipping, where you might get a little bit more certainty for forecasting. For me personally, is gold. So yeah, good question.
Yeah, I see Michael here threw in minimum 38%, so it seems that seems to be the golden number there. Anyone else?
About higher. Higher.
I think 40 is the minimum for sure for me, even higher once we take out shipping on some of those fishing boats and stuff. When you're talking a fishing boat at $300 shipping, that fishing boat's got to start margin at like 45-46% if we want to take that shipping amount out. Yeah, free shipping, 40 margin every day, I would be happy with. If I got to put shipping in there, you got to go 45 plus to take a gamble on that shipping and other costs that are associated with it.
Right.
Unloading a truck with 4 staff is super expensive. And then waiting for a truck for 2 hours because it's late or it doesn't show up till the next day, and I gotta add more people to that list, which affect the store, which affects sales on the floor. There's a lot of other factors that are included in that, and shipping companies are not ever on time, so that costs us a lot of money as well. And we have an offsite warehouse, which makes it even worse for us.
Right.
And those bigger boats, you can't send one guy to your offsite warehouse. You're having to send 2 guys. So we've essentially, as boats have gotten bigger, our cost of handling them once they've gotten here has really tripled because you can't stack them as high. You can't stand them on end. You got to expand your warehouse. And it's almost made it where I don't even know if 45% margin covers all of it.
Super interesting.
Stig, the next question is from Eddie around what channels are working best for marketing.
So everyone like email, SMS, or any direct mail or social SEO, etc. What are you guys finding that works best for you?
See above, nothing's working great for us.
Sorry, say that again.
Nothing's working great for us, unfortunately.
Right. Jason?
For us, newsletters are still our number one form of advertising that don't cost us near as much money and get to our consumer. You can get information in there. You can put products right in their face. If you have a sale, you can put a sale in there, or you can put new product in there. which is different from any of our Google, or our social media really sucks. We don't do very well on social media, but we put all the time into newsletters, a weekly newsletter, and that's still what's working for us. Open rates are about 43 to 48%, which is amazing, and we just keep taking our customers' email addresses, whether it's at the front counter or through every sale that we get online.
Jason, are you having almost every customer who comes through the till give their email?
Yeah, it's rare that's, it's actually rare now that somebody doesn't want to give their email address. It's normally an elderly person that thinks that we're just going to spam them every day, but that just doesn't happen anymore. And they don't realize that they have to still opt in after they give our email. Once they give an email address at the front door, they'll send an email to say, hey, are you going to opt into this? And they have that 3 months to do that. So that there is laws around that. So it's I would say most people are giving it now because they know we just can't spam them here in Canada.
How often are you emailing them?
Once a week, that's it. And if they don't open it, the people that don't open the email will get a second email in that week to see if we get a second open rate, which is usually small at around 4 or 5% for the second email. Same email goes out, but it just goes out twice to the people that haven't opened the email the first time.
Yeah, newsletter is the most cost effective, as long as you're willing to do like what Jason's talking about and graft and get emails from everyone that comes into your store, everyone who takes orders. The ROI on that is night and day better than anything else that we do as well. We support it with our YouTube channel is a big one for us, like with a lot of content and that kind of thing. But we essentially use our newsletter to get people to our content, to interact with that, and then also get, whatever it is, products or sales or initiatives and that in front of people. So it's by far our best responding channel for sure.
With the retailers on the call, what software are you using most? Are you using Klaviyo or using Shopify email?
Yeah,
MailChimp, but we're changing to Shopify and maybe looking at Klaviyo.
Okay.
The other thing I see on here, yes, we still do radio in Ottawa.
Yeah.
Just one of the comments. And I find radio still works for our local traffic right in town. If we have an event or something, it's just for event type driven. It's not just for every day.
Okay.
So it's not like an ongoing campaign, Jason. You're sort of using it sparingly when you've got specific events and things you're trying to promote.
Yeah, events, early season and late season is really when we use it, winter and summer. So, May, all the, canoes, kayaks, stand-up paddleboards are in, come in, look at it now, and then the end of season, we do the event of course, clearance, blowout, get rid of everything till the winter's coming.
Okay, thank you.
Man, that radio shocks me. I built my business on radio, but since Spotify came along, I don't know anybody listening to the radio anymore. So I am blown away that you're seeing. We literally built our business on radio ads, and then it just died about 12 years ago.
I think you can do
question.
geo-targeted Spotify ads, Brad.
Another question before we run out of time here is, how many of you are actively looking at clearance catalogs and ordering ahead of planned promotions? I assume that means to also help maximize or increase margins.
We're doing that all the time, not so much in the paddle sports world because I don't see it as much, but on like the other side of the house, the soft goods and sunglasses especially, they have trained us. We will only buy at 30% off wholesale at this point. We'll just move a rack to the stock room until we can buy again on sale.
Okay, crazy.
I'm always trying to buy clearance, but I don't want to do it for a promotion. I'm trying to buy clearance so I can make more margin. And that's the biggest problem that's happening with the manufacturers is they're giving us clearance and they're putting it on their website at 30% off. I'm not looking for a clearance when they're putting it at 30 off. Let us clear your product and I'll buy a ton of it at 30% off or 40% off. I can get a little bit more margin out of it. Don't compete against me on that. So I'm really looking at where they're selling that clearance to now because they're selling it to a lot of big box stores at the same time. and making sure that I can make margin on that clearance, and it's not something that's just going to go away in a month and they're going to clear it out themselves. But clearance buys do get more margin if you can do it right, and it's harder to do it right nowadays.
Okay. Simon, how about you?
Yeah, we do. We're trying to evolve into that, I think, a bit. It's all very cash flow dependent, though, I find, is, because you get the best deals when you can pay for it up front or within 30 days kind of thing. And so I mirror Jason's comments there, as far as it doesn't make much sense for us to buy clearance if we're then selling it on clearance and not doing any better out of it. But yeah, it's something for us that we're trying to wrap our heads around moving forwards, but it's looking at buying it at clearance, selling it maybe on sale, but still making a little bit of extra margin, and then that helps that bottom line at the end of the year.
John, how about you on this one?
Yeah, I definitely look at the clearance list and see if there's stuff that we seem to be light on or categories. We're not buying for promotions though, for sure. We would be buying just to fill in inventory where we feel like we're low if there's something, that's a clearance product. We do ski in the winter, and for us, we have a lot of inventory cash flow issues that come up later in the year, November, December, and January. And so for me, I'm not looking to bring in a bunch of additional inventory at clearance time.
Okay. Thanks, John. Yeah, that kind of mirrors it. You want to make sure you're not inventory heavy going into the off season just because you got clearance. You still got to sell it.
Yeah.
If there's no more other questions, I just wanted we can wrap this up. I want to say thanks. Retailers, it's always hard to be on the hot seat. But I think it was great. You had lots of really informative answers. You can tell by everyone staying on the call long past our deadline. I think people are interested in hearing what people are seeing and what they're saying. And ideally, this helps us modify as a brand, for sure. Listening in on this, it definitely hits home. It makes me want to think on how I can make it better and more profitable for everybody in the industry. Pam, next slide. For the reminder, we have an upcoming webinar, September 16th. Based on the success of this, I think it'd be really interesting to do a brand roundtable. Same thing, a poll, 4 or 5 hard-hitting questions on what brands are seeing in the industry, what they're investing in, what they're not investing in. What can we work on, or what do we need to work on, or what do we need to become more profitable as brands? Not everyone is doing well in the industry, and I think we can highlight those together. And I think that wraps it up. But again, thanks Jason, John, Brad, and Simon, and everyone who attended. Super grateful for you guys taking the time out of your busy day and being part of this. I think this is what the Paddle Sports Trade Coalition is all about. It's about sharing information, talking openly about problems, not being scared to talk about those problems, and ideally we all learn from it. Pam, over to you.
Just thank you all for joining us. Thanks again to the panelists, the presenters. Feel free to contact us at info@paddlesporttradecoalition.org. And remember, this webinar will be posted. The recording will be posted on the website. Feel free to share it and become a member, stay engaged, get involved with the paddle sport committees, come to PTC Colab. Lots of great things going on. So hope to see you on the next webinar, September 16th. And we'll get more information on Colab updates and also take a look and hear what the brands have to say. Until then, thanks again for joining us and happy paddling. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.